The woman went to a kindergarten event. All the children were there except her daughter. So Yuzhen went to the next room to find her daughter, but she saw her daughter hiding in the cupboard. The teacher explained that the child had been like that all day. Yuzhen gave the teacher a disdainful look. When the girl walked out of the room, Yuzhen began to ask about her child's situation at school. The teacher said that the child had seemed a bit depressed lately. She was concerned whether there was something going on at home. Yuzhen immediately retorted at the teacher and put the blame on the kindergarten. In an instant, the teacher was shocked by Yuzhen's sharp words. This time, the kindergarten was preparing to perform a musical. All the parents were overjoyed when they heard about it, but there was only one leading role. Each parent thought their child was the one. In order to be fair, the kindergarten decided to give each child an audition. Soon the children's audition information was submitted to the judges. The judges then classified the information according to family situation. At this time, the judge Lucy suddenly saw Yuzhen's information. Lucy's face instantly fell. Everyone thought Lucy had seen her friend's application, but she didn't say anything. Instead, she said the word perpetrator. This made everyone look at Lucy strangely. Then Lucy went to the bathroom and thought about her past. She couldn't help but cry. Soon the children who passed the audition were sorted out. At this time, the leader asked Lucy to call and notify them one by one. Lucy called Yuzhen with a nervous heart. She said her name twice, but she didn't expect Yuzhen to have already forgotten her, and hung up the phone as soon as she said the child was in class. When Yuzhen was riding the elevator home, she accidentally saw another parent. Nami's delivery. Yuzhen knew that Nami was a fashion designer, and she remembered Nami's domineering manner at the kindergarten. A horrible plan came to mind. Yuzhen took her daughter home and then climbed the stairs to Nami's floor. She saw Nami's delivery after confirming that the surveillance camera was broken. Yuzhen took Nami's delivery back to her home. Then she shredded the contents. The next day, the school held a singing competition for the lead role in the musical. Yuzhen's child's outstanding performance brought her one step closer to the lead role. Yuzhen then happily invited the parents to go swimming together and discuss the musical script. In fact, she was showing off. On the way there, a parent from a less privileged family was consoling his child. Z's child sang very well but could only play a supporting role. At this time, Z unexpectedly learned from her daughter that Yuzhen's child had a peanut allergy. After the swimming party, the rich parents asked Z to order food for the children, but Z deliberately ordered fried chicken with peanuts. Soon, the fried chicken with peanuts was in the hands of Yuzhen's child. Z, on the side, recorded the girl the whole time. After the girl ate the fried chicken with peanuts, she soon had a reaction, and her coughing got worse and worse. Yuzhen came over and found the peanut and asked who ordered it. Z immediately pretended that she had forgotten, but the girl recovered immediately after belching. Yuzhen was afraid that they would realize and left the party with the child, but Z gave a meaningful smile. That night, Lucy called Yuzhen again. This time, Yuzhen finally remembered who Lucy was, and before the two of them could chat for a few moments, Yuzhen saw her husband return and hurriedly hung up. Lucy, on the other hand, was so nervous that her hands were shaking uncontrollably. After the two met, they didn't even have time to chat before. Yuzhen took out a gift box and handed it to Lucy. Then she excused herself and left. After Yuzhen got back in the car, she was no longer calm. She was breathing heavily, her eyes were darting around, and her body was shaking uncontrollably. Lucy, on the other hand, opened the box and found the money inside. She hurriedly chased after Yuzhen, but she found that Yuzhen had already left. So Lucy took a taxi to chase after Yuzhen, and soon she arrived at Yuzhen's apartment. Lucy didn't know Yuzhen's exact address, so she sent her a message saying she was downstairs. When Yuzhen saw the message, she was extremely nervous. Then she hurriedly ran to the corridor to check downstairs. Not only did she see Lucy, she also saw other parents of students. At this time, Yuzhen was so nervous that she didn't know what to do. In order not to let others find out that she knew Lucy, Yuzhen took the initiative to send a message asking Lucy to come to the 10th floor. After seeing Lucy, she wanted to ask her to go to the cafeteria. Meanwhile, the parents of the students also arrived at the elevator door downstairs. Yuzhen saw that the elevator started to go up and knew that they would be coming up soon, so she directly ignored Lucy and wanted to go home. At the same time, the elevator also arrived at the 10th floor. Yuzhen opened the door and went in, but she wanted to close the door. She then pulled Lucy in. In the process of pulling, money accidentally spilled on the floor. It turned out that Yuzhen had always wanted her child to get first place in school, but she gave each parent in the class a resume file, and each folder had a different password, which contained photos of the other parents and their dark histories. The even more perverted Yuzhen also had videos of secretly filming the other parents' privacy, but she was very satisfied with what she had done. That day, the kindergarten held a children's drama performance, and the parents in the audience were enjoying it. When a girl raised her magic wand, another girl entered and was directly scared to the ground. The parents in the audience were suddenly shocked, and everyone's eyes unconsciously looked at Yuzhen. Yuzhen hurriedly went to the stage to check on her daughter's condition. Everyone's eyes once again revealed a look of surprise. Yuzhen knew that the other parents were looking at her, so she quickly took her daughter in her arms to prevent her from talking nonsense. Then she took her daughter behind the scenes. The mother of the other girl also brought her child here, but she didn't expect Yuzhen to blame her daughter. Ziyi immediately changed her face after hearing this. At this time, Yuzhen suddenly put her hand on her shoulder and said not to care too much. Hearing this, Ziyi seemed like a different person and saw Yuzhen about to leave. After saying that, Ziyi immediately followed without thinking and stopped Yuzhen and said that the magic wand had never touched her daughter. But Yuzhen did not continue the conversation, but said that Ziyi was not following to apologize and that she was very disappointed. Ziyi was angered by Yuzhen's manipulation, but obviously Ziyi could not argue with Yuzhen, and she was also continuously attacked by Yuzhen's words. After seeing Yuzhen finish attacking her and about to leave again, Ziyi once again stopped her. She absolutely would not allow her daughter to be wronged. There was surveillance footage hanging in the auditorium and many parents had filmed it. Ziyi wanted to watch the video and confront Yuzhen. One parent couldn't stand it anymore and came to help, and took out the video he had filmed. Yuzhen of course didn't dare confront him, and tried to change the subject by saying that the child was scared. After that she took her child and left, leaving behind the other party full of anger. When they got home, the father asked his daughter why she was afraid of the magic wand. Yuzhen looked back and saw the security camera was on, so she told her husband to stop asking. She comforted her daughter and said they would draw together later. Then Yuzhen took out a drawing book and prepared to draw a tree with her daughter. But her daughter wanted to draw a racing car, and Yuzhen refused. Yuzhen followed the instructions in the book and asked her daughter to draw the tree trunk first. This implied the energy and creativity of growth. Then she asked her daughter to draw the tree trunk thicker. The daughter obediently did as she was told. Then she asked her daughter to draw fruits on the tree, because fruits represent achievements and desires. When she saw that the fruits her daughter drew were small, Yuzhen directly took the pen and drew bigger ones. At this time, Yuzhen received a phone call and asked her daughter to draw by herself. When her father came to see her daughter's drawing, he was shocked by her words and his face changed, because her daughter drew a woman lying on the ground with extreme, and a man holding a stick. The picture changed, and Yuzhen began to wash the paint on her hands with water. Her face was full of indignation. On the other side, Ziyi was so angry that she took the video evidence to the school and wanted the school to help clear her daughter's name. But the headmaster advised her not to pursue it, because Yuzhen and the others were people she could not afford to offend. And in the end, Ziyi had to return home with nothing. Just then, she ran into Anna, the parent of another student, and Ziyi showed Anna the video of her daughter being wronged. But Anna was a big mouth and told two other parents about the video at noon, and she also speculated that Ziyi might be abused at home, and just happened to be at the coffee shop. Yuzhen happened to hear the three people's conversation, and walked over to warn Anna that she'd better not gossip, or she'd pay the price. Soon the matter died down, and 2 weeks later, one day after Lucy finished work, she was browsing her moments when she saw a photo of Yuzhen's daughter's broken leg, and realized that the other person had fallen at her company. She took a taxi to Yuzhen's building, brought a cake and wanted to apologize, but when she got to the building and called, she couldn't get through. Lucy looked through Yuzhen's circle of friends, and saw Yuzhen write that today was a day for husband and wife, so they had sent their children off on a camping trip. Lucy thought that if she went downstairs, she could just give the cake to them and leave, so she rang the bell at Yuzhen's house, just as Lucy thought no one was home and was about to leave. Yuzhen opened the door angrily and directly squashed the cake to one side. Lucy said that she had come to give them the cake, and that it had nothing to do with anything that had happened between the two of them. Unexpectedly, Yuzhen angrily told her to get lost, and said something meaningful. People like you are really scary. There must be a lot of secrets between the two of them. Then Lucy desperately knocked on the door for an explanation. Yuzhen was behind the door, refusing to open it. When Lucy arrived downstairs, she received a call from Yuzhen. Lucy thought she was going to apologize, but she didn't expect a cry for help. At that time, the phone hung up. When Lucy called back, there was no answer on Yuzhen's phone. Lucy was so angry that she didn't go up to check on the situation but left. She didn't know that soon Yuzhen appeared on the railing of a tall building, with blood dripping from his hands. The next day, the police came to Yuzhen's house. There was blood on the door and the ground. The police even found a fragment of a picture drawn by Yuzhen's daughter in the toilet. Back to Yuzhen's student days. At that time, Lucy's mother remarried Yuzhen's father, and the two people who were not related by blood became sisters. At first, the two of them were a bit awkward, but as they spent time together every day, their relationship gradually became closer to that of sisters. Time has now returned to the present. Yuzhen's funeral will soon begin. Lucy is here as a relative. Several suspicious kindergarten parents have also come to pay their respects. During the memorial service, they even directly pretended to cry. At this time, They also noticed Lucy's presence and realized that Lucy was Yuzin's younger sister. After the last kindergarten parent finished paying their respects, Lucy realized that the woman was her section chief, Z. So Lucy came out and talked to Z for a while. Her goal was to get Z to keep her relationship with Yuzhen a secret. But Z asked Lucy if the police had said anything. Z left without getting any useful information from Lucy. The remaining people then participated in Yuzhen's cremation. One parent with short hair was different from the other kindergarten parents. She directly and hypocritically started crying. After the funeral, Lucy planned to leave, but was stopped by Yuzhen's father-in-law, because Yuzhen's husband was in a coma in the hospital at this time. The father-in-law wanted Lucy to help look after the two children for a while. Lucy refused without even thinking, because she didn't want to get involved with Yuzhen's family. Later, the police officer in charge of the case investigated Lucy's company. One of her colleagues accidentally revealed that Lucy and Yuzhen were sisters. The colleagues in the group were shocked to hear this. They speculated whether Lucy had killed Yuzhen in order to inherit his huge fortune. That night, the police came to Lucy's house again, because Yuzhen's husband had also been stabbed and was still unconscious. The police could only start with Lucy. Lucy was very confused when she saw the police again. She explained that her grudges with Yuzhen had been over for 18 years. There was no reason for her to kill Yuzhen. At this time, the police asked her again what Yuzhen said at the end of the phone call. This time, Lucy did not answer but turned around and left directly. After she returned home, the news of Yuzhen's murder was still being broadcast on TV. She began to recall the last phone call she had with Yuzhen. However, Lucy did not recall any useful clues. At night, she could not sleep, so she started browsing Yuzhen's circle of friends. At this time, Lucy discovered a strange comment from a parent named Nami in Yuzhen's recent updates. Then she clicked on Nami's circle of friends. From Nami's selfie, Lucy remembered that this person was one of the parents who came to the funeral. Lucy guessed that the two had a bad relationship, but then saw a photo of the two of them in the circle of friends. The screen went to Nami. At this time, Nami was with Zaya. Nami kept nervously biting her fingernails. Zaya saw this and quickly interrupted Nami, telling her to relax. Nami then asked her in surprise why she was fine. Zaya told her not to think about it anymore. Nami, however, wanted to say something else. Nami was about to speak but stopped herself. Zaya told her to shut up and emphasized that they had nothing to do with it. Nami then asked what would happen to Yuzhen's child. Zaya then said that she could go and talk about it, if she wasn't afraid of being killed. After saying this, Zaya was about to leave, but Nami angrily stopped her. Yuzhen's death also made the two of them highly suspicious, because before Yuzhen died, he had secretly filmed the two of them in private and threatened them. And after Yuzhen's death, they invited the nanny from Yuzhen's family to dinner to find out about the current situation in Yuzhen's family. When she heard the nanny say that she had planned to resign, but was forced to continue working because there was no one to take care of the child, Zaya immediately urged the nanny to quit. She also said that she had a good relationship with Yuzhen's family, and that she could help take care of the child. Seeing that the nanny was tempted, she immediately introduced the nanny to a new job. Zaya also directly prepaid the nanny 1 month's salary, seeing the money that she could only earn in 6 months in the envelope. The nanny agreed to resign without hesitation. On the other side, Lucy was being questioned by the police one after another, and her colleagues at work were talking about it behind her back. What's more, Lucy had made a lot of mistakes at work recently. Her boss had a meeting with her and was about to give her a long vacation and tell her to come back when things had settled down. Lucy disagreed and promised that she would not let her work suffer. But as soon as she sat down at her desk, she received a call from Yuzhen's father-in-law. The nanny had quit and there was no one to take care of the kids. Lucy had no choice but to pick up the kids. There, she met Z. Z and Lucy started chatting about the parents at the kindergarten. She said that if she were a cop, she would start investigating with them. At that moment, Z saw Zaya looking in their direction and got up to leave. Zaya wanted to take Yuzhen's children to the aquarium. This made Lucy hesitate. She glanced at Z and the children playing and did not immediately agree. So Zaya said that she had heard that she was on leave, so it would be best to go back to the company and take a look first. Lucy then agreed. At this time, the children suddenly came over and took Lucy's hand. The children wanted Lucy to go with them. Before Lucy could answer, Zaya said, "Lucy is busy. She will take them there herself." Then Lucy just watched Zaya take the two children away. Just as Zaya was about to take the bus back to the company, she suddenly remembered the children grasping her hand and their disappointed expressions. Lucy did not take the bus, but returned to the park. But when she arrived, there was no longer any sign of the children. Lucy then went to the underground car park, where she finally saw the children, and the group went to the aquarium, where Yuzhen's child dropped her doll. Zaya tried to help the child put the doll in her bag, but it was too big, so she just took the doll's head off and stuffed it into the child's bag. The child immediately started to cry. Lucy then took out the doll and fixed it before putting it in her own bag. Zaya then said something about girls being more sensitive and rolled her eyes before leaving. Then the group prepared to watch the aquarium show. Zaya also bragged that they had booked the whole place for the day, but at this time, another kindergarten child also arrived. They wanted to watch with Zaya and the others, but Zaya was unwilling and even argued with the manager. The manager apologized politely, saying that a work error had caused the double booking, and promised to give them a refund, but Zaya was unwilling. Hearing the children arguing behind her, she shouted even louder, telling the children to shut up. Zaya was so angry that she was ready to complain and led the children away directly. Lucy and the child did not move. The child even said that he really wanted to watch the show. Before Lucy could reply, Zaya returned and took the two children's hands and left. Lucy then followed angrily and stopped Zaya, who was about to leave, saying that she was going to let her child watch the show. Lucy said that if she was in a bad mood, she should not take it out on her child. This was the first confrontation between the two, and the beginning of a war between a woman and a school gang. That day, Lucy had just dropped her children off at the babysitters and returned to the company to work overtime. As a result, she received a call that her children had gone missing, so Lucy put down her work and went to her sister's house to check on the situation. However, she learned that the babysitter had fallen asleep while watching the children. The children's grandfather had not arrived in time and slipped away. Now was not the time to assign blame. Lucy hurriedly asked the police what they had found out. However, the police only had surveillance of the girls leaving the elevator, but the police concluded that the children had not gone far, because the two children did not have any means of transportation. Lucy was relieved. Lucy was greatly angered after hearing this. She was afraid that someone else had lured the two children out. After all, the mother of the two children had just been killed not long ago. The police and the child's grandfather's unhurried manner were even more reasons for her anger. Lucy chose to go out and search for herself. She also asked the neighbors around her to forward it to their friends. Subsequently, the neighbors around her also joined the ranks of those searching for the children. But at this time, the two children were sitting on the bus. Meanwhile, Lucy was browsing the community group when she found someone saying that they had seen the two children on bus 740. Then Lucy thought that the two children had seen her leave on bus 740. Lucy felt that it was really possible that the children were on the bus. She hurriedly started to look up the bus route. At this time, the two children were taken to the bus company by the driver, because the driver also noticed the children's unusual behavior on the road. Finally, Lucy met the two children at the bus company. When she learned that the children had taken the bus to find her, it touched her heartstrings, so Lucy took the two children to her house and called her sister's friend Zaya to express her gratitude. Zaya exchanged pleasantries with her. At this time, Zaya was in the room with her lover, but there was a secret hidden in her eyes that no one knew. Meanwhile, in another mansion, Nami, her sister's friend, was going crazy. Another parent, Zi, also couldn't sleep at night. She went to the window, and in her hand she held a charm. These three parents were definitely involved in Yuzin's death, but they didn't know who the murderer was. On the other side, Lucy was babysitting for the first time and had no experience. After finally getting the baby to sleep, she rested for just a few seconds when the baby woke up because he missed his mother. No matter what Lucy did, the baby wouldn't stop crying. The baby even demanded to be taken home by himself. Lucy had no choice but to take a taxi with the baby back to Yuzin's apartment complex, and she also took a long vacation with the company. With no choice, Lucy was forced to move into a luxury mansion and take care of her sister's child. With no experience, she immediately experienced what was called top-level torture, milk that would automatically be knocked over if she wasn't careful. She was always interrupted while cooking. She had to put up with a lot of anger when getting dressed in the morning. In a few days, the child's clothes would pile up like a mountain. In order to adapt to this life as soon as possible, Lucy posted online for help on how to take care of two 6-year-old children. Soon, Lucy received a lot of advice. First, in terms of diet, you need to maintain twice daily protein intake. In the morning, drink warm water on an empty stomach. Take lactic acid bacteria and calcium, zinc, and vitamins. At night before going to bed, prepare propolis in advance. The humidity in the house should be controlled at about 55. Pay attention to the level of air pollution at any time. On bad days, try not to go outside as much as possible. Also prepare books related to learning. At least read with them once a day. At this moment, Lucy understood the difficulty of being a mother. At the end of the day, she was directly exhausted. At the same time, taking care of children also inevitably leads to contact with other mothers of the same age. That day, another parent invited Lucy to a party that evening. When she heard that it was a monthly gathering of parents in the same class, Lucy agreed for the sake of her child. Then Lucy called her colleague to help look after her child, while she casually dressed up and set off to the party. What she didn't know was that the people attending the party were all wealthy. Everyone was dressed up to the nines. The women were flaunting their status in the family, while the men were deliberately or unintentionally showing off their wealth at the table. When Lucy arrived, she immediately noticed that her outfit did not match the occasion. Recalling what Zaya had said about dressing casually, Lucy felt that these people were too calculating. She turned around and left directly. At this time, Nami at the party got drunk. When the man saw this, he hurriedly went over to smooth things over and asked Nami to drink less. Unexpectedly, Nami simply ignored what she said. She continued to pick up the wine on the table and drink it. At this time, the lady next to Nami started to greet the man. Nami saw her husband chatting with another woman, and the woman touching her husband's arm. She was furious. The man felt humiliated and took Nami out to get some fresh air. This happened to be seen by Lucy, who was about to leave. So Lucy eavesdropped on their conversation and heard the word classmate mom. Lucy paused for a moment. On the other side, Lucy's colleague was playing hide-and-seek with the children. One child hid in her mother's closet and accidentally knocked over her shoebox, and inside the shoebox there was a pile of photos. When the child ran out, he took the photos and came to his colleague. In the scuffle, his colleague also saw the photos. His colleague quickly picked them up and asked the girl where she got them. The girl said it was in the closet, so his colleague didn't pay much attention. He thought the man in the photos was the girl's father. That night, Lucy returned to the community and thought about Nami always suspecting her husband in anger management disorder. She speculated whether it was Nami who killed her sister. Such a horrible thought came to mind. Lucy felt a bit ridiculous and didn't want to think about it anymore. But when Lucy returned home, she happened to see the photo on the TV stand. It turned out to be a private photo of the neighbor next door, although Lucy couldn't tell who the woman in the photo was. But the bracelet on the woman in the photo was exactly the same as her sister's. This made Lucy doubt. On the other side, her sister's husband woke up from his coma. As the only witness at the crime scene, he chose to hide the truth. The next day, Lucy was packing the children's school bags for school, while the children were playing with doll toys, and found a USB flash drive inside the doll backpack, which the child thought was a jewel and put it back in the doll backpack. In fact, this USB flash drive hides all the secrets of the wife of the Chable. Lucy went to the police station after dropping the children off at kindergarten, but happened to be the detective in charge of her sister's case on field duty. Lucy originally wanted to put the found photos here, but then thought that this matter concerned her sister's reputation, so she took the photos back. After Lucy left, she called her colleague who had found the photos. She asked where her colleague had found the photos. Then Lucy went home and found more photos. But in the photos, only the men's faces were shown, and she didn't know who the women were. The two of them then decided to first find the men in the photos and interview them. So Lucy went to the property management office in the community. On the pretext of asking where her sister's parking spaces were, she asked the property management to show her the parking space division in the community. At that time, someone happened to be looking for the property manager. After the manager left, Lucy secretly photographed the parking space information. Then Lucy found the man's parking space and wrote on the nearby pillar that she wanted to interview the man and her contact information. After that, Lucy went to the school to pick up her child, but she was told by the teacher that the child had already been picked up by a neighbor. Lucy opened the message and saw the other person's message to her. Then Lucy rushed to the location. She happened to see that the parents were besieging the kindergarten teacher because the teacher was wearing a bracelet. Zaya warned her not to wear jewelry for fear of injuring her child. The teacher became angry and told her to mind her own business. Since this was not happening at the kindergarten, was she overstepping her bounds? Zaya was about to argue back when Nami suddenly walked out. She bluntly asked the teacher if she had any backing. If not, she should know her place. After saying this, she grabbed the teacher's wrist and took off her bracelet before throwing it away. The teacher then picked up the bracelet and cried sadly. Lucy saw this and quickly went up to help, which deeply moved the teacher. The teacher then invited Lucy to the coffee shop to start pouring out her grievances. She also told Lucy that Nami was aggressive towards everyone and had a conflict with her sister because Nami had once uploaded an article on social media sniping at her sister. The content of the article even mentioned men, which inevitably made Lucy more suspicious that Nami was the murderer. It so happened that Lucy came back to pick up her child and saw Nami babysitting her sister's child, and the two had a huge fight. Nami even threatened to kick Lucy out of the community. Lucy directly asked Nami if she was involved in her sister's death. The mother next to her saw that the situation was about to get out of hand and hurriedly stepped in to stop the fight. This time Nami's small team did not help Nami, but instead accused Nami of being a bit too much. After the incident, Nami angrily found Zaya and told her about the argument she had just had with Lucy. Zaya told her not to cause trouble recently. Nami, however, insisted on kicking Lucy out of the community, and asked Zaya to take the lead. Zaya questioned whether she was crazy, and whether she thought her husband was having an affair and we didn't know. At this moment, Nami realized that she was a fool, and her remaining self-esteem began to collapse. However, Zaya did not notice this and just told her to play the part of a good couple. This undoubtedly touched Nami's bottom line. Nami directly threatened Zaya. If anything happens to her, she will tell everything she knows. After saying this, Nami angrily left. This kindergarten teacher only earns 10,000 yuan. However, her friends in her circle of friends are either showing off bags worth hundreds of thousands of yuan, or bragging about bracelets worth hundreds of thousands of yuan. What's more, these luxury goods are all the same as those of the parents of her students. A parent of a child guessed that the female teacher was hiding a secret, so she arranged for someone to secretly follow the female teacher. It turned out that not long after, the female teacher actually entered the obstetrics and gynecology department late at night with a male parent. This made Zaya feel happy. Meanwhile, Nami was calling her husband, but the phone kept going unanswered. Nami looked at the 25 missed calls and tried to adjust her mood. Then she picked up the electric stick and tried to sleep by lighting a mosquito coil. But the more she tried, the more her mood became agitated. Nami then directly took her clothes and went out to look for her husband. And just as she was taking a taxi on the roadside, she happened to bump into her returning neighbor. Zaya curiously asked Nami where she was going at this hour. Nami was already in a bad mood, so she told her to mind her own business. Zaya was not angry, but had a smile on her face. After she had sent the others away, she asked Nami directly if she was going to find her husband. Without waiting for Nami to answer, she said she wanted to know where her husband was, so she should follow her. Nami had no choice but to follow Zaya to a deserted place. Zaya did not directly tell Nami the truth. Instead, she warned Nami not to threaten her again, or she would not mind telling others about this little family matter of hers. Nami was not willing to be outdone and mocked Zaya for having secrets that were known. Zaya thought Nami didn't know her secret. Unexpectedly, Nami directly said that her company was suspected of plagiarism. Once the USB flash drive with evidence is leaked, Zaya will face bankruptcy, imprisonment, and disaster, and her own little family matter is nothing more than a loss of face. Zaya said, "Your husband's mistress is pregnant." After she finished, she left without looking back. Nami, however, directly broke down emotionally, and then she dragged her tired body home. As soon as Nami entered the door, she was greeted by her husband scolding, "What the hell do you want by leaving the baby at home alone?" Nami was full of grievances in her heart, but she didn't dare to act. If she loses her temper, she will lose her identity as the wife of a chaebol. With her emotional breakdown, she could only vent her anger through her incompetent ranting. This may be the helplessness of marrying into a wealthy family. The next day, Nami sent the baby to kindergarten as usual. When she saw the kindergarten teacher, Nami didn't say anything, but turned around and left quickly. Zaya stopped her, however, saying that it was party day and she couldn't miss it. Lucy, who was watching from the side, was also invited to the party. Soon the party ended and the rich wives started playing the game of whoever loses has to pay. Today's topic was to text their husbands about having a second child. Nami's eyebrows jumped up when she heard this. Zaya looked at Nami provocatively. Lucy's eyes also showed a hint of surprise. In the end, everyone sent a message to their husbands. Nami edited the text but never hit send. In the end, Nami, of course, bought the bill. Afterwards, Lucy approached Nami and tried to tell her a secret about her husband, but Nami ignored her completely. It turned out that last night, Lucy was passing by a coffee shop and happened to witness Nami's husband with the female teacher, and she also learned Nami's family secret. Lucy didn't know that Nami already knew, although the two didn't get along, but Lucy still decided to tell her about it. Lucy went to Nami's house to visit, but the nanny knocked on Nami's bedroom door for a long time but no one opened it. And just then Lucy opened her circle of friends and just happened to see Nami's suicidal post. The two sisters had a fight. The sister was pushed over and her face hit the stone. Afterwards, the younger sister knelt down and begged her sister to forgive her. Not only did the sister not forgive her, she wanted to kill her younger sister. The stepmother kept persuading the sister on the side. The stepfather saw everything in his eyes. He was in a reorganized family, and no one could be partial. He could only walk out of the ward. But as soon as the stepfather left, the stepmother changed her face. Then she turned around and comforted her own daughter who had made a mistake. This became the last straw that broke her sister's sanity. After everyone left, her sister looked at the scars left on her face and decided to take revenge on her younger sister. Then her sister rushed into the middle of the road. The next day, when her younger sister went to school, all the students were asking who Lucy was. When Lucy came to the bulletin board, she found an announcement about herself written by her sister. Not long ago, the two of them were like hand-in-hand sisters. That day in biology class, a small balloon was given to each student, but Lucy secretly took several. After the two went home, they researched it online. At that time, they heard their parents shouting for them to eat, so they hurriedly put the small balloons into their bags. Unfortunately, the zipper of the bag got stuck, so they had to leave their bags behind and ran downstairs. The next day, the two were just coming out of the church, laughing and joking. As a result, Lucy accidentally sprained her ankle and rolled down the stairs. Hearing Lucy's painful screams, Lucy's mother pointed the finger at Yuzhen and blamed her for Lucy's injury. Yuzhen knew she was partly to blame, but she didn't say anything. Then Lucy's stepfather carried her to the hospital, but Lucy was faking it. Her foot was fine. This minor incident became the beginning of the rift between the sisters. After dinner, the sisters were going to school, but Lucy's mother suddenly stopped Lucy. She wanted Lucy to cut her hair, because she felt that having long hair would affect her studies. But Lucy, who loved beauty, was not willing to do so. She even compared Yuzhen to herself. After Lucy's hair was cut, she was sad and cried. Yuzhen came to Lucy's room to comfort her. Lucy felt that her mother was biased towards Yuzhen, but she didn't understand that this was biased towards herself. Later, Lucy kicked Yuzhen out of her room. The next day, she didn't walk with Yuzhen either. When they arrived at the classroom building, Lucy was about to fall when she changed her shoes. Yuzhen saw this and immediately went to help Lucy, but Lucy angrily pushed Yuzhen away, and as a result, Lucy lost her balance and fell to the ground, and the small balloons in her bag also fell out. And this scene happened to be seen by the teacher on duty. And then Lucy's mother was called to the school. But Lucy's mother said that all those small balloons belonged to Yuzhen. But these words happened to be heard by Yuzhen, and instead of panicking, Lucy's mother told Yuzhen not to butt in. But Yuzhen didn't want to be the scapegoat. After school, the two sisters started arguing over the incident. Yuzhen, whose face had been disfigured, was determined to take revenge on Lucy. She wrote a slanderous letter accusing Lucy of having an affair with her stepfather. Then she stood on the roof of the school. Yuzhen forced Lucy to admit that the letter was true, or she would jump off the roof. After this incident, there were irreparable consequences. Everyone started pointing fingers at the stepfather. The stepfather was overwhelmed and committed suicide by drinking medicine. The originally happy stepfamily was broken. Lucy and her mother moved to another place to live. However, 18 years later, when Lucy saw Yuzhen again, Yuzhen had tragically died at home. Lucy was forced to take care of Yuzhen's child. That night, the children did not sleep and ran around in the living room. Before long, a man who claimed to be from downstairs came looking for them. Lucy saw this and hurriedly apologized. The man warned Lucy that this was the last time, in order not to affect the neighbors downstairs anymore. Lucy bought a large number of cushions and spread them all over the room. That day, Lucy was home alone when she heard someone knocking on the door. When she opened the door, she saw garbage scattered all over the floor. Just as she was full of questions, the man downstairs swung a baseball bat at her. Afterwards, Lucy took out her phone and planned to call the police. But when she thought about the man's threat, she put the phone down. Then Lucy went to the property management company to inquire about the situation downstairs. But she learned from the property manager that there were two elderly people living downstairs, and there was no middle-aged man as she had said. This made Lucy realize that something was not right. Then Lucy thought of Zaya, who had always wanted to get her kicked out of the neighborhood. Lucy opened Zaya's circle of friends. Sure enough, she saw a post from Zaya about the man who claimed to be her downstairs neighbor. Lucy was about to call Zaya and confront her, but just then the doorbell rang again. Lucy opened the door in fear only to find that the person at the door was Nami. It turned out that since Lucy accidentally saved Nami from committing suicide the last time, Nami decided to withdraw from this showdown to see who can be the happiest family. But before withdrawing, Nami wanted to drag Zaya down with her. She came to see Lucy just to unite the two of them, because Nami had a USB flash drive in her hand that contained Zaya's secrets. Before leaving, the two agreed to go to the kindergarten seminar hosted by Zaya tomorrow, and expose Zhang Ye's hypocritical persona in public. But the two of them were a bit inadequate. Nami asked Lucy to find out if there were anyone else who was against Zaya. Then Lucy thought of Duoan, who had a strong background. She asked Duoan out and bluntly told him that she planned to deal with Zaya. This suited Duoan down to the ground. Without even thinking, he agreed. Then Lucy started to compile Zaya's dirt. However, while investigating people related to Zaya, she discovered that all her subordinates had the same tattoo. Lucy's memory suddenly returned to the day her sister died. At that time, there was also a man with the same tattoo in the elevator. Lucy began to recall what happened that day. She remembered that the taxi she was in had a dashcam, which must have also filmed the tattooed man. Lucy then started looking for the taxi's records and contacted the driver. After giving the driver some money, Lucy successfully obtained the surveillance footage from that time. Unfortunately, it was only a back view. Soon, Zaya's community school parent association meeting began. She wanted to use this meeting to consolidate her position as the president of the parent association. Having the right to expel students at will was not expected. However, Lucy and Nami suddenly arrived, while Duo An backed them up. Zaya's intention this time was to expel the two children from school, so that the two families would be forced to move out of the community. However, things did not go as planned. Lucy spoke out in public about some of Zaya's shady dealings and even produced evidence, causing Zaya to be forced to leave the venue. While Zaya was troubled by this matter, her husband called and said that he could not get in touch with her younger brother. Zaya realized that something might have happened to her brother and started looking for him everywhere. She went to her brother's place and the bar he usually went to, but found nothing. Just then, Zaya suddenly received a call from her brother. When Zaya arrived at her brother's hiding place, she wanted to beat her inconsiderate brother to death, but when she saw her brother's face full of bruises, she kindly asked her brother if there were any other injuries. Then Zaya adjusted her emotions and started asking her brother if he had broken the law. When she heard her brother say that he had broken the law, Zaya could no longer control her emotions, and told her brother to stay here and not go out, and asked her husband to keep an eye on him, until she had dealt with the matter. On the way home in the car, Zaya recalled the video Yuzhen had shown her, which recorded her brother's crime. Lucy, on the other hand, was taken back to the police station as soon as she arrived home. Lucy knew she was not the murderer of her sister, so she did not think there was anything wrong with her. However, her brother-in-law Dao Jun did not think so. Dao Jun first mentioned to the criminal police that Lucy and Yuzhen were not related by blood and that the two sisters had conflicts. Now that Lucy has reappeared after 18 years, she is deliberately approaching him for revenge. Dao Jun then began to tell the criminal police why he believed that Lucy was behind it all. Then he had to mention Yuzhen's mental problems. Many years ago, in the band rehearsal room, he and Yuzhen fell in love at first sight. Soon after, the two of them confirmed their romantic relationship, but Dao Jun soon discovered that Yuzhen liked to lie. He thought that things would improve after getting married, but they often fought about it. Later, when Yuzhen got in touch with social media, it got even worse. She often made up stories about receiving various gifts on her social media account to make outsiders think that she was leading a happy life. That wasn't the worst of it. Slowly, Dao Jun discovered that after excessive bragging, Yuzhen seemed to have developed delusions. One time, the two had a fight. As soon as Dao Jun raised his arm, Yuzhen just lay on the ground by himself. Later, Dao Jun discovered from Yuzhen's computer that Yuzhen was often engrossed in news reports about husbands killing their wives. In order to make Yuzhen feel secure, Dao Jun changed the name on the house to her name. He even handed over the financial power to Yuzhen. This did indeed stabilize Yuzhen's emotions, but Lucy's sudden appearance once again ignited Yuzhen's paranoia, and it was even more serious than before. So much so that it led to an argument between the two. Dao Jun killed his wife in self-defense. Lucy of course doesn't think it's her problem, because she and Yuzhen had talked for 15 minutes the first time they met. Then the detective asked Lucy if she had taken anything. This suddenly made Lucy freeze, because at that time, Yuzhen did give her a box, and in the box were several bundles of banknotes. But fortunately, in the end, she didn't take it. Then Dao Jun went on to tell the story of the night Yuzhen died. At that time, the children went camping, and there were only the couple at home. Dao Jun said that Yuzhen deliberately got him drunk, and it seemed like the wine had been spiked. When he got drunk, Yuzhen's paranoia suddenly returned, and at that moment, someone suddenly rang the doorbell. The person outside the door was none other than Lucy. Dao Jun was convinced that the two were in cahoots. Otherwise, why would they come to his house at this time? The two of them must have had a plan. Dao Jun became more and more agitated as he spoke, and kept scratching the wound from his injection. Then he continued. After Lucy left, Yuzhen took out a knife and started attacking him, but in the process of defending himself, he accidentally stabbed Yuzhen in the chest, so he picked up his phone to call the police, but Yuzhen stabbed him in the back. Then, while he was losing consciousness, he saw Yuzhen call Lucy, and he heard the two of them discuss their plan to kill him. Dao Jun then tearfully recounted the entire incident to the camera. When Lucy heard Dao Jun's testimony, she became emotional. She said she had no motive to kill Dao Jun, but the detective said she was short of money, and Lucy became even more angry. She thought Dao Jun's speculation could not be used as evidence, and that Dao Jun's purpose in doing so was to exonerate himself. Lucy said that there were only two people in a space and one of them was dead. Isn't the remaining person more suspicious? I don't know why you are doing this to me. I'm more curious about why Dao Jun lied. Soon the news of Lucy's arrest spread throughout the community. Nami, who had the best relationship with Lucy, was ostracized, so Nami went home and contacted her husband, who was a lawyer, and then Lucy was released on bail. But Taiho didn't want to get involved. He left Lucy alone and drove off in a hurry. When Lucy returned to her sister's house, she entered the password several times but it was always rejected. She went to the kindergarten to pick up her child but found that the child had already been picked up. Meanwhile, Dao Jun was furious after learning that Lucy had been released on bail. That day, Nami witnessed her husband cheating on her and didn't rush forward to expose him. Instead, She invited Yala to dinner and wanted her to become the nanny in her family. Nami said that her nanny had resigned and no one was available to help with the children. Facing Nami's invitation, Yala playfully agreed. The next day, Taiho deleted his chat history with Yala as usual before entering the house. However, what Taiho didn't expect was that he actually saw Yala in his own home, and Nami's actions were far from simple. Tonight, she still plans to have dinner with Yala as a family. Her husband had no choice but to agree with a wry smile. But when Nami handed her husband the clothes he needed to change, Taiho instantly became scared. He said he had to go back to the office because he had a dinner appointment tonight. He wanted to avoid this awkward dinner, but Nami would never do what he wanted. She said she had already made all the arrangements. Just as Taiho didn't know how to find an excuse to avoid it, Lucy called just in time. Taiho immediately grabbed this lifesaver. Without waiting for Lucy to finish speaking, Taiho volunteered to take responsibility for her case and meet her now to help her sort out the facts. This left Lucy, who was just trying it out, with a confused look on her face. Subsequently, Lucy followed the address Taiho gave her to a building with no one around. It so happened that Taiho had just arrived as well. Immediately afterwards, he used his card to open the door. Lucy had no idea that this unremarkable-looking building had a hidden gem inside. After she followed Taiho through the many doors, Lucy finally arrived at a place that looked like a private restaurant. Taiho's friends were surprised by Lucy's arrival, because this was the first time a woman had been invited to this club. Lucy was not intimidated by the men. She did not directly ask about Dao Jun, but first asked them to fill her glass with wine. After a few glasses of wine, Taiho started talking about Dao Jun with his friends. First, Dao Jun is the director of a hospital and is very rich, and secondly, Dao Jun had given his house to his wife. And the reason for this, the men all thought that Dao Jun must have been blackmailed by his wife, because the house alone was worth billions of dollars, and so on and so forth. The men chatted away, until Lucy couldn't stand it anymore and got up to leave. And after Lucy left, the men really started talking about Dao Jun, and one of the men said that Dao Jun had really bad taste, because last time he went to a nightclub with him, he actually looked at that kind of woman. Just then, Lucy suddenly returned and took the mobile phone she had deliberately left on the table, which contained a recording of their conversation. On the other side, Taiho told Dao Jun what had just happened after leaving the party, which made Dao Jun feel a little anxious. He felt that Lucy would investigate him everywhere sooner or later, so Taiho asked Dao Jun if he had done anything else that he shouldn't. Dao Jun's face immediately changed after hearing this. However, just as Dao Jun was thinking about how to deal with Lucy had already found someone who could crack a USB flash drive. The next day, after Lucy got the USB flash drive, she found an alley nearby and plugged the USB flash drive into her computer. Then she found a folder about Dao Jun. Subsequently, Lucy found 3 videos, and when she clicked on the videos, the main character in them was Dao Jun, while Dao Jun was playing a little game with a small leather whip. At the same time, Lucy thought that her sister's child also knew about the USB flash drive, plus the distorted drawing the child had once drawn. Lucy realized that the child had also watched this video. Subsequently, Lucy angrily took out her mobile phone and called Dao Jun to invite him to meet. After the two arrived at the park, Lucy directly took out the USB drive and questioned Dao Jun. She guessed that Dao Jun must have had a quarrel with Yu Zhen because the video was discovered, and then deliberately killed Yu Zhen. Lucy advised Dao Jun to surrender himself to the police quickly, or she is going to take the USB drive to the police station. Unexpectedly, Dao Jun simply told her to go ahead. He acted as if he didn't care, and said that the police in Yu Zhen had known about it for a long time, and that he had even transferred the house to Yu Zhen for this reason. There was no need to kill Yu Zhen at all when everyone already knew. Dao Jun's words made Lucy believe them. Later, Lucy found a folder with her name on the USB drive, which contained a story about her written by Yu Zhen. All the text pointed to the fact that her appearance had caused Yu Zhen anxiety and fear. What's more, Lucy remembered when she met Yu Zhen. Yu Zhen hated her. After reading it, Lucy realized how much her appearance had affected Yu Zhen. She also felt a little like she was indirectly responsible for Yu Zhen's death. So the next day, Lucy went to Yu Zhen's house and planned to pack up her things and leave the city to clear her mind. But when she finished packing and was about to leave, she opened the door and saw a blood-stained parcel, with the recipient's name written on it, Yu Zhen. Lucy opened the parcel and a key and a note with an address fell out. She then followed the courier's address to find the sender's address. That evening Lucy came here according to the address. When she entered the store, there was a bod sitting in the store. So Lucy asked the bod if she knew a woman named Shin Huijing. This caught the bod off guard. Instead of answering directly, the bod asked Lucy what she wanted. Lucy didn't ask directly about the delivery either. She just said she wanted to find out something. For some reason, the bod started to send Lucy away. But just as Lucy walked out the door, her neighbor came to see the bod and called her boss Shin. Lucy suddenly realized something and turned around and went back into the store. She shouted the name Shin Huijing directly at the bod. The bod was stunned after hearing it. Lucy then knew that the bod was Shin Huijing. Subsequently, Lucy took out the Yuzen delivery and asked her what the key and card inside meant. The bod was very vigilant and began to ask Lucy about her relationship with Yuzen. Lucy thought for a moment and just told the bod that they were friends and that the delivery was found in front of Yuzen today. The bod was shocked and quickly picked up the delivery to check the date. The delivery date on the package was indeed quite old. Subsequently, Lucy learned from the bod that this express delivery was exactly what Yuzen had previously given to bod. Lucy finally got a clue and began to ask bod about her relationship with Yuzen and what the contents of the package meant. Bod's face changed after hearing this. Not only did she not tell her, she directly told Lucy to give it out. Lucy wanted to pursue the matter further, but bod directly went into the room and locked the door. In fact, before Lucy arrived, Dao Jun had already arrived here first. He handed bod some money to help with the matter, but bod thought the money was too little and said she would not sell her dead daughter for such a small amount of money. Dao Jun had already expected this. He took out another envelope for bod, and when bod opened the envelope and saw the photo, her face changed. Dao Jun then began to explain his purpose. Dao Jun told bod not to say anything. Time returned to the normal timeline. After Lucy left, bod called Dao Jun. She told Dao Jun that Lucy had come to see her today, and that Lucy already knew about the key. Dao Jun was furious when he heard this. He blamed bod for sending the package without telling him, but bod said that the package had been sent a long time ago and had already been signed for. Dao Jun should be concerned about who deliberately left the package there. Then bod asked Dao Jun if he was hiding anything else. Dao Jun seemed to have thought of something and angrily started hammering on the wall and scolding. Then, after hanging up, bod thought to herself Lucy said the package was mailed on December 4th, so she started checking the mobile phone delivery text message, which showed that it was signed for at 9:20 p.m. on December 5th. Immediately afterwards, she opened the news about the Yuzen incident, which said that the time of death for Yuzen was around 9 p.m. on December 5th. Bod compared the information from both sides and sensed that there must be a hidden story. She even had an expression of having figured it all out. On the other side, Lucy went home and started checking various online photos of keys to see what kind of locker the key corresponded to, but she got nothing, like trying to find a needle in a haystack. So she went back to bod's shop and saw that the door was closed. So she went to the barber shop next to bod's. While Lucy was getting a haircut, she started asking about bod. Unexpectedly, Lucy really got something. She took out Yuzen's photo and asked the woman if she had been here, but unexpectedly learned that Yuzen was actually bod's daughter. On the way back, Lucy looked at the key and began to think about what had happened in the past 2 days. First, she learned from the barbershop owner that Yuzen had been here 2 months ago. Second, bod said that the courier was Yuzen who delivered it to her. So Lucy wondered if it was possible that the key belonged to Yuzen. Then Lucy went to the place near Yuzen's community where keys were made. She asked the shopkeeper, but she didn't know what kind of key it was. After checking, the shopkeeper told Lucy that it was the key to the storage locker in the apartment warehouse. Meihao thanked her over and over again. Then she went to the storage locker downstairs of the apartment building and found the locker of Yuzen's family. Then Lucy used the key to open the locker, but she didn't expect that the key couldn't be inserted. So Lucy tried to open the locker door and unexpectedly found that the locker was actually open, but it was empty inside. At the same time, Dao Jun, who was jogging at night, received a call from bod, who questioned Dao Jun about the meaning of the key. Dao Jun hung up angrily and let out a dragon roar. He took out his phone again and found the mysterious person. On the other side, Lucy found nothing and was about to leave. She thought about it for a while and went to the safe next to her. Lucy started to try the key bit by bit. At the same time, Dao Jun found the mysterious person and sent a text message, blaming him for complicating things by deliberately letting the courier go. The mystery man, however, said that Dao Jun deserved it because Dao Jun had not kept his promise. He now wanted to see Dao Jun's worried face. Dao Jun's eyes turned red with anger. He sent a text message saying that you obviously killed Yuzen. At the same time, Lucy's key was also tried and correct. She was about to find out what was inside. Unexpectedly, there was only a torn painting inside. Lucy recognized it at once as something her sister's child had drawn. So she went downstairs to her sister's house to ask the child what the other half of the picture was. At that moment, a courier happened to pass by her. She remembered that her sister's delivery was from this company, so Lucy went up to ask why she had only received the delivery 2 months ago. The courier then took the delivery box and called to ask about the time of signature. After a while, the courier told Lucy that the delivery had been signed for at 9:20 p.m. the next day. There had been no delay in delivery. Hearing this, Lucy's eyes widened instantly. Her eyes were full of disbelief, because this time was exactly the time when her sister was killed. Lucy went to check the surveillance camera and found that the person who took the package was Z. She went directly to the police officer in charge of the case and told him that there was a third person at the scene at that time. She even took out the Yuzen package as proof, afraid that the police officer would not believe her. Lucy also took out the property's surveillance camera footage at the time. Unexpectedly, after listening to her, the police officer said that this could not prove anything. Afterwards, Lucy called Z again after leaving the police station. However, the phone was turned off. In a rage, Lucy went straight to Z's house. No matter how hard she knocked, Z just hid behind the door and refused to come out. Later, Lucy went home and found her sister's collection of mother's secrets. She found the folder about Z, but in the end, she didn't open it to check. She didn't want to blackmail Z in this way. The next day, Lucy went to the company where Z worked, and Z's secretary called Z, who happened to be at the company entrance, and learned from the secretary that Lucy had come looking for her. So she turned around without saying a word and hid in the company toilet. On the other side, the secretary saw that Z had not arrived yet, and said that she had just said she was on her way, but she had not arrived yet. After hearing this, Lucy knew that Z was hiding from her, so Lucy began to look for her, but when she got to the road, she didn't see Z's figure. Lucy guessed that Z was still in the company, and the women's toilet was a good place to hide. So Lucy checked room by room, and kept calling Z's phone. When she heard the ringtone behind the door, Lucy knew that Z was hiding behind the door. Z had no choice but to rush out with a stiff face, seeing that Z didn't want to talk to her. Lucy directly took out Z's secret USB drive, and the two of them went to a coffee shop, where Lucy asked Z about the delivery, and when Z denied it, Lucy simply took out the video from the property management, and Z still said she hadn't taken the delivery. That day she just went to play with other mothers, and when she saw Lucy's disbelief, Z swore that what she said was the truth. But then Z thought of something. That day, when she was riding the elevator to the 10th floor, she saw Zaya's husband. That day, Zaya's younger brother and his friends were drinking at home. They made Zaya's husband wait on them, and this scene happened to be seen by Zaya, who suddenly returned home. She immediately lost her temper and smashed the house into a mess. When they saw this, the few people immediately fled in fear. Then her husband began to help Zaya treat her wounds. But at night, when Zaya passed by the balcony, she heard her husband on the phone. Her husband said that he had no money to give her anymore, and that he really had nothing to do with that woman. Zaya panicked when she heard what her husband was saying on the phone. That night, she held back from asking her husband if he had anything to say to her, but what her husband said was not what she wanted to hear. As a result, Zaya couldn't sleep at night. When she saw her husband sleeping, she took the phone. After going out onto the balcony, Zaya called back the number her husband had dialed. The person on the other end of the line was her brother. Hearing Zaya's voice, her brother sat up straight in shock. Then Zaya asked him who the woman was that he had spoken to his brother-in-law about that night. As soon as his brother heard this, he became arrogant and told Zaya to get the money. Then he hung up decisively. There was nothing Zaya could do, so she asked her subordinate to investigate her husband. But her subordinate's answer was that her husband was clean. But just as Zaya was about to drive off, her husband on the other side received a call from her subordinate. After her husband finished talking, he hung up angrily. Her subordinate also planned to drive off. But at this time, Zaya suddenly got into the car and saw the record of the conversation between the subordinate and her husband, and opened the recording of their conversation. After listening to it, Zaya asked the subordinate what she meant by her husband meeting with Yuzen frequently. The subordinate had no choice but to tell her about seeing her husband meeting with Yuzen before. Zaya then asked why the two were meeting. The subordinate said that Yuzen seemed to have something on her husband, and suspected that her death was related to her husband. This inevitably made Zaya think of the night Yuzen died. She called her husband, but there was no answer. It wasn't until 11:30 p.m. that her husband returned home. On the other side, Lucy found out through investigation that the night Yuzen died, not only did Z go out and enter the building, Zaya's husband Jack was there as well. So Lucy found Jack and asked if he had left a delivery at Yuzen's door. But Jack's reaction was the same as Z's, pretending not to understand. Then Lucy simply asked Jack directly what his relationship with Yuzen was. Jack heard someone ask this again. He got angry and started yelling at Lucy. At this time, Zaya happened to come home and saw the scene. She defended her husband and scolded Lucy. Lucy was not afraid of Zaya at all. She directly asked Zaya where Jack was the night Yuzen died. Zaya couldn't answer and left with her husband. But after returning home, Zaya couldn't help but ask her husband where he was that night. As a result, Jack also did not tell Zaya, and chose to cover it up with anger and refused to answer. At the same time, the lawyer was drinking with Dao Jun. After 3 rounds of wine, The lawyer asked Daojun what really happened the night Yuzhen died. The drunkenness on Daojun's face immediately subsided. Then he said seriously it was him who stabbed Yuzhen to death. After hearing this, the lawyer could not help but warn Daojun, don't be too happy just yet. Even if the case is not prosecuted, as long as someone keeps an eye on the case, they will definitely find useful clues. Daojun's face fell after hearing this, because Lucy was still pursuing the death of her sister. Now Lucy had found out that her sister's death was connected to Jack. Combined with Jack's angry expression at the time, Lucy was convinced that even if Jack was not involved in her sister's death, there must be a secret between the two of them. Lucy then wanted to start with Jack's social media apps, but she didn't expect that Jack hadn't activated them, so Lucy looked through Zaya's updates. At that time, she saw a comment under Zaya's updates from a man saying that Jack was a kept man. Seeing that the man's name was Tom, Lucy remembered that this person was Zaya's younger brother. Subsequently, Lucy thought that Tom might know something, so she clicked on his avatar and sent him a message wanting to meet. Tom agreed to Lucy's request and did not forget to tell Jack about the meeting with Lucy. Jack was instantly furious and his hands trembled. The next day, Lucy arrived at the place where she had agreed to meet Tom. She wanted to know about the relationship between Jack and Yuzhen. Tom didn't beat around the bush and said directly that Jack's secret was indeed enough to kill Yuzhen. As soon as he finished speaking, Zaya and Jack arrived in the private room. Tom was so scared that he immediately sat up straight. Zaya, on the other hand, dragged Lucy out of the door and locked it behind them. She then gave her brother a good beating. Luckily, the waiter heard the noise and opened the door, but Zaya didn't stop what she was doing. She then turned her head to look at Jack. Then came a few slaps. Lucy was not stupid. She could tell that Zaya had just been acting. Jack's secret was definitely not as simple as being a bartender. Seeing that Lucy didn't believe Zaya, she took Jack's backpack and took out a passbook to show Lucy the money Jack had transferred after being threatened by Tom. Zaya's original intention was to show Lucy that Jack was weak and would never have the guts to kill Yuzhen, but didn't expect Lucy to feel that the secret was huge after seeing the amount. Otherwise, the hush money would not have been so high. Seeing Lucy's unintelligent appearance, Zaya knew that she could not use a soft approach. Then she picked up a wine bottle from the ground and smashed it. She grabbed the glass fragments and called the police. Zaya directly lied that someone wanted to commit violence against her. Before she could finish speaking, Lucy snatched the phone away from her. Lucy felt that Zaya had simply gone crazy. While Zaya said she wanted to let her taste what it was like to be falsely accused, Zaya then brought Jack and Tom out. Zaya told her husband to go home first, but Jack suddenly stopped Zaya. He wanted to tell her his real secret. Just as Jack was about to speak, Zaya interrupted him. The reason things have developed to this point is actually directly related to Zaya. In the past, Zaya obtained Yuzhen's hidden secret and threatened Yuzhen with it. Unexpectedly, Yuzhen was not afraid of the threat, but instead viciously said that he would take revenge on Zaya. It didn't take long for Yuzhen to find out that Jack had been supported by a woman in the past. Yuzhen even threatened Jack with this and had sex with him. Jack was still too young to think that the two of them would have a future. In fact, he was just a person being used. Because Zaya knew all of this, he knew that her husband was just a man who lived off other people's hard work and definitely didn't have the guts to kill Yuzhen. But in order to prevent this matter from affecting his own life, Zaya once again found Lucy. She said that Z said she saw her husband on the 10th floor, while her husband said the opposite. Zaya also mentioned that Z had recently bought a house. Since Yuzhen's death, her husband and father-in-law have been unwilling to stay at home to take care of the children. Then Daojun blamed his father for taking his work too seriously and only caring about his granddaughter being left unattended, without caring about his own son. After saying this, Daojun slammed the door and stormed out, and the door happened to catch his father's hand. This satisfied the old man's wish not to see his granddaughter, so he called Lucy. The old man handed the two children over to Lucy to look after them, citing an injury to his hand. Once again, Lucy was forced to move in with her sister to look after the children, but after the children fell asleep, Lucy ran into Daojun, who had suddenly returned home. At that moment, the children, who happened to be unable to sleep, also saw their father return home. The two children then happily rushed into Daojun's arms. The children ignored Lucy, who was taking care of them. At night, they even locked Lucy out of the door while they slept. This time, the two children didn't want to sleep with Lucy and told their aunt to leave behind the door. But when the children heard Daojun's voice, they immediately opened the door and crowded around their father. Lucy felt annoyed and went to the bathroom to get some fresh air. Just then, Daojun forgot his phone. Lucy hesitated for a moment, then immediately picked up Daojun's phone and tried to unlock it with the password. Just as Lucy was trying to unlock the phone, she suddenly received a text message. "If you give me enough money tomorrow, I'll take this case to the grave." At that moment, Dao Jun happened to open the bathroom door and saw Lucy looking at his phone. Dao Jun picked up the phone and found that there was a text message that had just been sent. So he went directly behind Lucy and scared her. So she immediately turned around. Dao Jun warned Lucy not to do anything stupid, because there was only one chance in life. But Lucy said she wasn't afraid of threats. So Dao Jun took a towel from behind and made it look like he was going to strangle Lucy. Luckily, at this time the child came to find Dao Jun. So Dao Jun left with the child in his arms. And Lucy, on the side, was still in shock. So much so that she was afraid to sleep at night. So she just curled up in bed and stayed there all night. The next day, Lucy told a trusted companion what she had seen in the text message last night, and guessed that Dao Jun had an accomplice. After analyzing the situation, her partner concluded that one of Jack and Z must be the accomplice. Later that night, the two of them arrived at the residential area and waited. Her partner was responsible for driving and stayed in the garage to keep watch. Lucy, on the other hand, guarded the entrance to the residential area. After a while, Lucy saw Z come out. Jack also walked out at this time. After informing her partner to go to the entrance, Lucy started to follow the two of them from behind. Subsequently, Z got into a taxi and left. Jack got into the second car behind him. Just as Lucy was secretly following the two cars, Z's car suddenly turned right, while Jack's car kept going straight. Then Lucy suddenly remembered that Zaya had said that most crimes are committed for money, and that Z had been showing off her wealth a lot lately. So Lucy decided to follow Z. Lucy then followed Z to a hotel, and saw Z get on the elevator to the second floor. So she immediately chased after her up the stairs. Just as the door was about to close, Lucy pulled it open. As she had expected, Z was meeting with Dao Jun. So the person hiding in the corner the night Yuzhen died was also confirmed to be Z. Lucy immediately took out her phone to take a photo. Dao Jun angrily took Lucy's phone away. Lucy questioned the two about what they had been up to. Dao Jun said that it wasn't the two of them who had been up to anything, but Z who had been behind it all. Z was furious when she heard this and came up to argue with Dao Jun, but was pushed to the ground by Dao Jun. Just then, the waiter heard a noise and knocked on the door. As soon as Lucy opened the door, Z started to flee. Lucy grabbed Z and told her to explain herself. Z said impatiently that it wasn't her, but Lucy had seen it all and didn't believe her. Z then became a bit hysterical. She didn't dare to say anything. She just kept saying for Lucy to check the evidence that Dao Jun was the criminal. The most important of these was the painting in the locker. That painting was the most important piece of evidence. Just then, Dao Jun rushed out and started dragging Z. He whispered something in her ear. Z immediately shook off Lucy's hand and followed Dao Jun out of the room. That night, Lucy returned home and looked at the half-finished painting she had taken from the locker. She was now completely confused. She knows that her sister's child drew the picture. To restore the picture, she must go through the child, but the child is unwilling to redraw it. So Lucy thinks of guiding the child through play. She immediately asks the child why there are 5 people in the picture. The child says it is a secret and cannot tell.